Welcome to today's Muskogee City Council meeting. Please join us. Councilman Wayne Johnson will do the invocation, and then we'll follow that with the flag salute.
Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, as we come to you this evening, we're so thankful for the many blessings that you have given us each and every day. Dear Lord, we're thankful this time of the year when we just see your evidence around us in the springtime and the bloom and the singing of the birds and everything that you've blessed us with. And as we are renewed by that, help us renew our minds and focus on you and what you would have for us in our lives. Dear Lord, we pray, dear Lord, for the losses that we've had in our community with the fires. And we ask, dear Lord, that you would be with those family members and with their loved ones during this time of loss. We ask, dear Lord, that you would be with us in the meeting and the directors in this meeting, that everything we fulfill tonight, that we'd be seeking what's best for this community. And these things we ask and pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the flag salute. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
We are accounted for. We'll now go to the minutes from the March 11th meeting. Is there addition or correction to those? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there comments regarding the minutes? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. We'll now look at the consent agenda, items 1 through 9. Item number 6, we have been asked to pull off for a further confirmation by the airport board. So we'll strike it from the agenda. But other than that, item 1 through 9, is there anything anybody would like to move to regular agenda?
Make a motion we approve consent agenda with the exclusion of item number 6.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Regular agenda item number 10.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the denial of ordinance number 4068A, rezoning the property located at 2011 and 2013 West Muskogee, more particularly described in the ordinance from C1 Local Commercial to C2 General Commercial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We'll now consider ourselves in a public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. This is a request to rezone the property. The owner and applicant is Han Lee. He is asking and requesting to rezone from the C1 local commercial to the C2 local commercial. It is 2011 and 2013 West Muskogee. This is the front of the property, currently zoned C1 local commercial. Across to the north is zone C1. It is the Speedway Grill Restaurant. To the north and to the west is zone C1. There are some vacant residential structures, and then farther to the west is the R1 zoning classification. It's residential, and it's the location of St. Paul Methodist Church. To the north and east is C2. There's vacant commercial properties there that are available, and then farther to the east is a currently occupied Mexican restaurant. To the south, all along the south boundary, is R1, which is residential property, and there are single-family residential structures. To the east is public property, is the former fire station number 3, and hopeful new inhabitants if things go well for the senior citizen facility. Then farther to the south and east is public property. It is a park. And then on down to the east is zone C2. It's general commercial, and it is the property of Johnstone Supply, the heat and air company. To the west is vacant. It's zoned C1 local commercial. To the north and farther west is C1, and it is the Betty Smart Bonding Company, and then farther on are R1, which is the residential properties. This is a map of the aerial of the 300-foot radius of the properties that were notified of the public hearings. And while the area from the boundary of the downtown district to probably 22nd Street does show to be local commercial, however, this area, as you get deeper in the comprehensive plan, it does not comply with the commercial area plans and the West Mulkey Avenue corridor plan that was more deeply identified in the comprehensive plan. Therefore, staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works have recommended denial.
Okay.
Let me answer any questions, and I'm not sure if Mr. Lee is here. I don't see him.
Is Mr. Lee here, the applicant? No. And let's go ahead and close the public hearing. No one has signed up to speak to this issue. Now, does council have question or comment?
You had listed one other C2 zoning. One is Johnstone Supply. What would be the other one that was across the street?
It is the two vacant buildings. They're currently vacant. I'm sorry, right there. It is right there. The ones that are closest to you, those are currently zoned C2. And I do not know how, why, when, or what was the reasoning, because anything that I've known that has been in there have been offices or just general, really mild retail sales.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
I
John.
was just wanting to see what the difference would be. I know Johnstone Supply was an old auto dealership way back in the past, but I can see also this has parking in front of it because it sits back off the roadway. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could it have been when Jasper's had it as their dining room or anything?
It could have, but what's interesting is that the current restaurant that had the bar in there is the C1 zoning classification, and it hasn't changed from that time. So unless it was just a standalone bar, that would have been a zoning classification for that at one time. I don't remember it being that, but I don't.
Yeah, that's
go back
where
that far.
they used to have their, that's where they had their banquet rooms and stuff.
It's part of still that other restaurant that's the C1, so it's really difficult to identify over the overlay, but it looks like it's just those two farther east buildings that are the C2.
Further questions or comments?
So the applicant is asking to rezone to C2.
Yes.
Okay. And the reason for denial is because, the reason we're recommending denial is
While the area does, on the overlay map and the future land use map, it does show to be local commercial in that same coloring scheme. But then when you get farther in there, like on the page 58, which is the next page, they did a more comprehensive look at the commercial, and they called it the commercial areas plan. And that particular map identifies the areas that are around downtown, from the downtown to the 22nd Street along Mulkey, to be organized and in a fashion along downtown's approach corridors, and these areas should complement and not compete with downtown businesses. So it was identified to be still remain a lower classification because of the residential areas. And then they also identified a West Mulkey corridor plan that stated to create a neighborhood commercial node that includes businesses that cater primarily to the daily shopping needs of the nearby residents. So again, trying to keep it in a lower key, lower density commercial zoning classification for the neighborhood.
do we know what they were trying to accomplish in terms of the type of business?
At one time, he mentioned medical marijuana, and he wasn't sure, but he had been asked about renting the building for that. Then the next, he had said, well, maybe a car lot. I guess maybe some other people had asked him about renting the property for a car lot, and that would require the C2.
Okay.
And just feel like it's too high of a commercial density for that area, regardless of the request for the use.
I make a motion that we deny item number 10.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion?
Hang on. Are we denying the deal, or are we denying the, because
I make a motion to approve the denial.
Okay, thank
Item
you.
number 10.
Yeah, I was.
Usually I'll restate those, but a yes is a no.
Double negative.
So everybody knows what, how to vote on it. So, and we got a second as well?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comment or question?
No, Mr. Mayor, very recognized.
Yes, sir?
I'm just curious, like the one we done on 32nd Street, we just got through rezoning to C2, and this one here. So this area here is part of the downtown Is what
No, no, it's what they would said was to complement the downtown because it is on the outskirts. Right after downtown area is identified the central business district area. Zoning classification from about 9th to 22nd. This West Okmulgee corridor was identified to be a neighborhood type commercial business rather than the general, higher zoning that would be on 32nd, which would be more for region.
Because I know when we was doing that one over there, the big comment was that we should accommodate our citizens.
Yes.
But I was just curious of why it's such a big difference here than there. Because like I said, I'm totally against it, but I just can't picture in my mind. I see the same familiarities, and I just I'm just wondering, just depends on where you're at, I guess.
Right, if they identified the region commercial versus just the local commercial that was a neighborhood type.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
Turn the floor back over, Mr. Mayor.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Now tell me how we're,
A yes would be voting for the denial.
okay, yes.
Patrick Hale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Correct? Did I say that right? The motion to deny carries.
Yes.
Okay.
You did.
I made a mistake on item number 6, and it does need to be addressed. So, Mr. Garvin, can I bring that up right now? And
Yes.
do we need to read? Yeah, let's go ahead and read that, please, Tammy.
Approval of final payment to Vance Brothers Incorporated in the amount of $107,252.09 for runway 1331 apron and taxiway Bravo rehabilitation project, pending approval by the airport board or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Yeah, this is for the final payment to Vance Brothers. The amount is $107,252.09. At the Public Works Committee last week, y'all recommended approval. That approval was subject to the airport board approval. However, when the airport board met last week, there was not a quorum, so we could not get their approval. Now, as we stated last week, this item is being funded 95% by grant funds. So we've got a time frame we have to comply with. So we need to move forward, make final payment to the contractor, get our documents submitted for our reimbursement. So we're asking you to go ahead and approve this tonight, and then we'll get the airport board to ratify their approval at their next meeting.
Does the motion need to state that?
Yes, just that the airport board will ratify their approval at their next meeting.
All right. Mr. Tucker, you want to tell us what a motion needs to sound like?
Yeah, on this particular item, it will be to approve final payment to Vance Brothers without a recommendation from the airport board.
So
Motion to
moved.
approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Is there comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Sorry for the confusion on that item. That's my mistake. Item number 11.
Consider approval to accept the fiscal year 2017-2018 audit performed by CBEW Professional Group or take other necessary action.
Ms. Jean Kingston.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Chuck Crooks is here with CBEW to present the 2018 audit.
Chuck, welcome back.
Hello. Thank you again for letting us do your audit. I'm Chuck Crooks. I'm with CBEW Professional Group. I got to get my glasses out to see anymore, so sorry. All right. The audit itself is, the audit report itself actually is a clean opinion, which means it's unmodified. Means there's no modifications to the report and it presents everything as far as what GAP and GASB requires a city to put in their audit report. So everything that should be in here is in here. So that's why it's a clean opinion on there. I'm just going to go through some stuff real quick. Management discussion analysis just kind of is in there. It's also required by GASB in order to kind of describe what's in the audit itself. Then you have your statement of net position. This is the government-wide presentation of your financials. This includes stuff like your OPEB liability, your net pension liability, things like that. This does, even though this is what's required, this doesn't give you a good feel for what happens on a day-to-day basis here at the city. When you get to page, I think looks like it's 12 through 14, 15, those pages right there, those are actually your governmental funds, and those are presented on your regular, it's still a GAAP basis, but it doesn't include all those additional things that kind of skew a little bit of stuff. This actually gives you a good presentation of what each fund is actually doing within the audit report itself. Just as an example, you look at the general fund, and you go through it, and end of it, it's got an increase in revenues and expense, or I guess a profit, basically, what I should say, of 1.7 million, and it reflects there, and then all the other governmental funds reflect a $2.2 million profit. So the governmental funds, and that's all the special revenue funds, the capital project funds, and the general fund combined to get to that number, okay? They're also included here are the proprietary funds, which is like the Muskogee Municipal Authority, all right? It itself, even though a lot of the salaries and a lot of expenditures for the municipal authority are actually shown in the general fund itself, it transfers money, the money it actually earns over there, and transfers it over to cover the general fund. Even with those transfers itself, it did have a net change of basically a profit of $2.5 million within that fund itself. And that's your money-making fund anyway. That's what it's set up to do. It's set up to make money, to provide for the general fund to cover other things that are needed to happen within the city. You got your notes to the financials. Those kind of describe a lot of the stuff that's within the financials themselves. They're in here. We got some other. Now this stuff called required supplemental information back here. And it's like 50 through 55 or something to that nature. It's describing, GASB requires us to put it in. It describes all the pension and the OPEB stuff. And it just kind of gives you a better feeling for a few things and how it's been going. It's got 4 years here listed because those are the 4 years we've been required to do it. OPEB, you'll see in there, only has 1 year because it's the first year it's been required to be put in here. So you see stuff like that, and it just tells you what's been put into, talks about the pension liability and what's being put into those funds for fire and police, and then OPEB itself. And then you got your budget and the comparison of the budget to actual here, and that's required. It's also why it's in the required supplemental information. Then you've got the notes to the required supplemental information. It's just talking, it's basically a boilerplate note that we've put in here that describes the budgetary processes for cities on their accrual basis. And it's just really required to put in here it would normally be in the regular notes, but since they've made you move those presentation of the budget schedules back here, they've made us move it back here. And it's been there for years, but I just wanted you to be aware. Then if you want to see all the funds themselves, they're all listed separately back here, and how they've done throughout the year and throughout. This is a long report, by the way. Remember, there's, like 80 some odd funds, so there's a lot of funds to look through if you start glancing through there. Then you've got also your proprietary funds, all the separate ones of those, like the Hatbox and Hatbox Sports Complex. And you just get back here to now this is my report. This is a report on internal control and compliance, whether we had an issue. This is and if there are any issues, they would be mentioned following it. There were no internal control or compliance issues that we had within the city when we did all our test work and ran through it. And the next report in here is also required under uniform guidance, which means you've received over $750,000 of federal monies and spent those during the year. I think you spent $1.1 million this year in federal monies. That requires us to do some additional tests on the federal programs itself. There were no issues with federal programs this year, so there weren't any findings listed as far as with federal programs. If you saw back here, there are some findings listed, but they're for prior year findings. Uniform guidance also requires us to put those in here and how they were resolved. So You see those in there, that's why they're there, and that they were going away. They're not in the regular findings, so everything's been taken care of properly this year. And then that's pretty much the end of my audit report. Do you have questions about this thing?
One of the questions I have for those of us who may have forgotten, what's the difference between a qualified and an unqualified audit? Because I think what we have is unqualified.
You actually have unmodified. They changed
Unmodified.
it from unqualified because it was confusing to unmodified a few years ago. Just because unmodified, like I said, means it hasn't been modified because you're missing stuff. A qualification report means you've qualified it because it is missing stuff. Like I had to have Gene get the OPEB actuarial performed this year. If that wasn't in there, you'd have a qualification saying the OPEB has not been included properly or was not done properly and was not included properly within the report. So then that would make it a qualification to the report.
So basically, unmodified means that as far as you're concerned at this time, there was nothing that the city needed to go back and adjust.
Right, and it includes all the requirements that GAP or GASB would have required within the audit report itself. If you left out something that was required by GAP or GASB at this time, it would be a qualified opinion on it.
So in the audit as it stands now, in terms of how the city is performing financially, what does it reflect in terms of how we're performing financially? Does it show that we could be performing better, or does it show that we need to do some things to rectify ourselves?
That can all be that could be looked at in any different way. Like I was saying,
how does the audit look at it?
The audit just presents the numbers that are there. Okay. When you look at it, though, the general fund had a $2 million profit for the year. And that's including transfers in, but those transfers are in to cover those expenditures for, your municipal authority, your employees that are sitting. They're all being paid out of the general fund. So that looks good. It's gone up. Now, I say that the special revenue funds and your capital project funds, those are monies you have set aside for either specific special revenue and they may have decreases during the year because you finally said, okay, we're going to spend this money on something this year. Okay? That's why those funds are there. So your main funds are like your municipal authority fund that had, like I said, had a $2.6 million profit even after transferring money, and then your general fund. So those are your two main ones.
Right.
Like I said, those special revenue funds, you have those set there for that purpose. So when you might see them a negative one year, that's just because you found something to spend that money on for that year. That doesn't mean it's going to always remain negative. It could grow right back up the next year. I had the same question at another city. They were wondering the same thing about stuff. And, you have that sitting there. It may go in a negative one year because you're trying to spend for that, but you know that money's coming in that special revenue that's going to cover that in the future.
So because we had the surplus to do what we needed to do, it validates the fact that we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Correct.
But that we actually had a better financial plan in place for this fiscal year.
And you're budgeting to transfer that money to cover those expenditures. I mean, that's part of your whole budget process to know what you're doing and covering those areas that you're supposed to be covering. And you did that.
Okay. And then I think it's section 7 that talks about the city debt. I want to be certain that we're clear that those are debts that are maintained by the trust, not necessarily by the city. Is that correct?
Yes. It's all about presentation on some of that. The trust may still take care of those, and they probably do, but I think some of that stuff is for police cars. So that debt actually was for a general government purpose. Okay? But it still be maintained by something else.
Right,
yes.
but without indebting the general fund.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Who makes the determination whether the profit was $2.5 million or whether the profit was $5, that a particular fund is properly financed, if a particular fund has enough money in it to do what its purpose is intended?
I would hope that would be you as
Okay.
management.
Okay, so
To
you,
monitor
you
it.
guys don't look at that, you don't care about that?
Well, we're looking at the numbers they're going through and seeing, of course, we're testing transactions and making sure those transactions are properly followed through the whole process, such as being approved and going forward, and it's meeting all the right steps. But when you're doing that, you're doing it on a test basis only. I'd still be here right now if we were doing 100% of tests of all your transactions. But
I just was curious if there was an outside source that said, well, your pension fund liabilities are much, much higher than your assets.
everybody's pension fund liabilities are probably higher than their assets, and that question itself. The pensions are actuarially determined, and it's kind of based on the market and what type of money they actually have invested and what they look to be in paying out. Even though I think, what was it, $22 million in your pension liability, it's sitting on the books right now. That's police and fire pension. Now, they're not coming to ask you to pay that at all. That's the reason I think it's a little skewed when we have to throw that on there, because the police and fire is, 13%, 14% that you pay in per year per employee based on their wage, and that's it. They're not asking for any more than that.
So, if I may, we fund everything we're supposed to fund every fiscal year. And so we don't owe, if there's a pension fund shortage somewhere, it's not from the city's fault. It's not from the city not funding what we're supposed to fund.
Yeah, you're paying everything as far as that percentage for each employee. And we do look at that. We do look at that, what's tested.
So yeah, from city obligations, we're 100% funded on pensions. We've funded everything that we're supposed to fund.
And that is monitored by?
It's a state pension program, so the state has a fund that oversees that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The fire pension and the state and the police pension both look at that.
And the firemen and policemen monitor whether we're making our payments appropriately.
Probably true.
I ask these questions as a learning experience for myself, but we've all heard in the news over the past 10 years that there are major cities or municipalities in this country that are way, way, way underfunded. Now, how did they get themselves in that position, one asks, and were they monitored year after year after year for the last 10 years? Is there anyone that makes a determination, guys, you're in trouble? I can see a train wreck coming down.
So I can't speak for how other states handle theirs. All I can know is that we pay in what we're supposed to pay into the pension program, and that's how we know that we're funded what it's supposed to be funded.
We just what we owe, we pay, and
I think that's what he had said a minute ago.
Right.
That's a management oversight issue. What we're asking you to audit to see, with the money coming in, the money going out, did we handle it correctly? You're not here to evaluate our performance in terms of our management, but that we procedurally did it correctly.
Correct.
Took in the money correctly, spent the money correctly. Okay. All right.
thank you, and thank you.
And importantly for our purposes, that we spent less money than we took in. That's very important, and I'm glad
That's
that
a very
the
good
audit
thing.
showed. Yes.
Other questions or comments?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there comment or further question? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Jamie Stout?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes, that motion passes, and we move to item number 12.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Receive update from NFP Corporate Services of Oklahoma on current plan status and consider approval of resolution number 2750 authorizing certain modifications to the medical plan benefits under the City of Muskogee Employee Benefit Plan, providing and directing said modifications be incorporated into the plan documents, summary plan description and benefit summary sheets, as well as approval of resolution number 2751, approving and authorizing execution of the Mutual of Omaha renewal, the Blue Cross Blue Shield exhibit to the stop loss coverage policy, the Blue Cross Blue Shield Administrative Services Agreement, the Blue Cross Blue Shield Benefits Program application, the HCSC COBRA Administrative Services Addendum, the Blue Cross Blue Shield confirmation of renewal and benefits, the CVS/Caremark Prescription Benefit Services Agreement and required documents, the NFP RX Coalition Management and Consulting Agreement, the Connect DME Agreement, and the Zero Card Administrative Services Agreement and Provider Services Agreement, all to become effective on May 1, 2019, and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute all documents or take other necessary action.
Tammy, a gold star for reading that. Mrs. Plunkett.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, she just had to read all of that. I had to put it all together. I'm going to give a brief rundown for the insurance fund. If you have any specific questions, Robin Setzer is here from NFP to answer those questions, or I can probably answer them as well. In addition, I have representatives from Zero Card and DME, Connect DME. Those are two new programs that I'll cover this evening. So a little brief history of our insurance fund. Our insurance fund balance in March of 2017 was just over $3 million. If you remember, in 2017, we did a 13.97% reduction or premium holiday for the insurance, each tier of the insurance, for employee contributions and the city insurance contributions. Come February of 2018, our fund balance only decreased about $117,000, which dropped that to $2.9 million. We continued our insurance premium holiday through this last fiscal year. In this last fiscal year, plan year, we were hit pretty hard. We had about 5 large claims, and our fund balance is now at $1.7 million. We're about where we want to be now. We want to reduce or eliminate our premium holiday reduction, take those premiums that we had, the holiday that we had given to the employees and the city of that 13.97%, take it back to the rates that were in effect on April the 30th, 2017. And we also have a couple of contracts that we have proposed to try to save our plan some more money. First, I'll cover resolution number 2750. This is just the elimination of the 13.97% premium holiday reduction, and I would recommend that be passed as it is presented. And then the resolution 2751, this is where we have all of the contracts, Blue Cross Blue Shield, stop loss, things of that nature. In addition, this year we have durable medical equipment, which is services such as splints, braces, diabetic supplies, things of that nature that the employees can get at a discounted or no-cost rate. And it's direct savings to the plan because we can get that at a much cheaper rate than going through the insurance. In addition, we have a zero card agreement, which is direct pricing as well. It doesn't go through the insurance. And that is for any type of services such as from bunions to bypass surgery. So if an employee has a scheduled surgery at least 48 hours in advance, they can get a great deal of savings for those procedures. In addition, we have a pharmacy change. This year we would like to go to CVS Caremark instead of the Blue Cross Blue Shield TPA that we had prior. And that is a historical savings, if we looked back into the last couple years, of about $436,000 per year that we could save the plan by switching to CVS Caremark. So we're presenting that as well for you this evening. Two things I have changed for the contracts that were presented. I did fail to attach the durable medical equipment or Connect DME contract, so that I presented that to you this evening prior to the meeting. In addition, the zero card agreement, Under Section 7 and Section 14, which are the indemnification clauses. I had transposed some words when I had sent that off for review. So those have been modified to read to the extent permitted under Oklahoma law. So if those contracts on this resolution are approved, I would recommend that we change those to add that contract. It's in the resolution, I just didn't add it to your packet, and then the change in the zero card language contract. I have, again, zero card and DME here if you have any questions about those contracts. Or Robin is here again from NFP if you have any questions in regards to Blue Cross Blue Shield or CVS.
The question I have is moving from Blue Cross Pharmacy Services to CVS to save $436,000. Are we doing that losing any benefits being offered to the employees?
No, they're all same benefits. They have different tiers. Robin, you might want to explain the tiers and the pricing. That'll be different for the first 60 days, 90 days. But they're only changes that tiers of medication. But no reduction of benefits on the employee's behalf.
Okay, because my concern was with that type of savings, I want to be certain that as far as their pharmacy options go, they're not losing anything.
Yes.
They are not losing anything. What they are doing is, because we are using NFPRX, they are able to negotiate the pricing. The one thing that they will see different than they do see now is that there are certain medications that may require a prior authorization. So they may not be able to go to the pharmacy and feel exactly what they want, as say it's a brand new prescription or brand new medication that's just come out. They may be asked to go in and they may have to do a prior authorization, and it may be suggested that they use another medication that's been on the market longer that has a better price. That's the only thing, the difference that you will be seeing.
Okay, and that may be good overall. I just remember when Blue Cross decided that they weren't going to approve their customers to use Vytorin, for example, any longer. Vytorin had a whole different set of outcomes that it could provide versus what the new medication was that they claimed did the same thing, which didn't quite do that.
You're going to bump into that with any medications that come out, the new medications that come out. What I will tell you is that they do have the right to appeal. The providers do have the right to send in the records. You are a self-funded plan. So if it came out that the plan did wish to go ahead and cover the medication, then you do have the right to amend the plan if you wished.
So in the worst case scenario for an employee, if it's really justified by the provider that they have to have this versus that, they still have an option or an opportunity to probably get it.
Yes, or they could go through, have the provider come in and provide all the information, and then they have what they call a medical director that would take a look at it. Or you can require that they take it to outside review and have a physician outside of the Caremark CVS network, and they review it, and they come back and give you their opinion of what they would suggest. And then if all else fails, let's say that they really do want the medication and the plan supports it, then if I'm not mistaken, it would go in front of the insurance committee, and the insurance committee would vote on it, and then I believe it would come to you, sir.
Is this
When you looked at our historical information, do we have many of those employees that have those drugs presently prescribed that are going to be questionable?
No, sir, I don't believe you had that many. I believe, I'm not for sure if I have it in front of me. It seems like you had 3 that are under specialty medication right now. I would say 3 to 5, if I remember correctly. And that's pulling it from, we get a monthly Blue Insight report from Blue Cross Blue Shield. And if I'm not mistaken, you had 3 listed, but they were running, pulling it from memory, I want to say it was running under 100,000, but I would have to look. But it's monthly is what I'm thinking of. I would have to look to be
But it's
for
not going to
sure.
overwhelm the insurance committee each time they meet with these specialty medications if there's just 3 or
Right.
3 or 4 people involved.
My point was just that you do have a process in place. If something did come up, and it does come up, then you have a process in place for it to be appealed and then to go through the process.
And who makes that decision about why the appeal, us or you?
Well, we do not make the decision, sir. It would go to CVS Caremark first, and the provider would present their information, and it would be reviewed by a medical director. Their medical person would look at it and give their opinion. If they go back and tell the provider that they don't wish to use that medication, they'd like them to use something else, then the provider can either appeal it, and the member can appeal it, and it goes back again, and they can ask that it be sent to a outside review, and they use a provider that is outside of CVS Caremark, and they have that provider look at it, give their opinion, and it comes back again.
And
then
how long
if
is this process?
I would probably say you would be looking at, for each review, probably 10 to 14 days.
So if it was something that I needed probably pretty quick, it'd be 10 to 14 days before I'd be on it. How's it currently under the plan before we make the changes, how's it under this plan we are already?
Currently, you can go and fill any medication that you wish to have.
Okay, and how much is this going to save our plan by doing it this way?
Right now, you're looking at potentially $408,250.
And that's how much it would save us?
We looked back at your current prescription usage, and right now, if you take that amount, take those the usage that is in the past, your savings right now would be approximately $408,250. And normally, sir, just to be upfront with you, when you have a specialty medication coming up like that, normally the conversation between the provider and the insurance company or the PBM, the pharmacy benefit manager, those conversations start when they anticipate that they may be even prescribing that medication. Normally, the employer, the member's already taking something, and they know that it's coming up. So those conversations are held trying to be proactive as they can be.
And we will, during the open enrollment process, come 2 weeks from now, we will also have that open and upfront discussion with the employees that they may need to take a look at those, and then let Robin know so we can go ahead and take a look at them and try to process them through beforehand, before it even comes up or is an issue.
Okay, because my biggest concern is that, yeah, I like saving money, and that's why we switched insurance companies several years ago. But I don't want to do it at the cost of our employees' health either. And that's why we're up here. We're also here to make savings, but we're also here to provide health and security needs for our employees too. And I just want to make sure that we're not over jumping those boundaries, because I have one more question too, other than the prescriptions. So that 48-hour thing that you were talking about, and this is going to be kind of out there. If I had a heart attack, do I got to wait 48 hours to have surgery?
No.
I'm just asking.
No,
48 hours and 1 minute, sorry.
Most of the time it's 48 hours, but sometime if it's not a pre-authorized, they can work around that.
Okay, but if I'm having a heart attack, is that a pre-authorized thing?
The Zero card is really for medical care that can be scheduled.
Let me get you to step to the microphone so people that are watching can hear as well.
Yeah, my name is Stan Schwartz. I'm a Tulsa physician. I'm one of the founders of the Zero card. The Zero card is mainly intended for procedures that can be scheduled in advance. It is a supplemental plan so that if you did have a heart attack and needed surgery right away, that would still be covered under your underlying health plan.
Okay.
The Zero card is supplemental to that and gives you a benefit that, as long as there's time to schedule it through the Zero card, you could take that. You can take that opportunity to save money.
Okay.
May I add one more thing for you? For the RX, I think this may make you feel a little better. For specialty RX, what we will do is we will put the plan in place effective May 1. We will collect the data until 8/1. Now, in the open enrollment meetings, we will share with the employees if they are currently taking a specialty medication. Okay? As of 8/1, Caremark CVS will pull a report. All right? And what they've done is for 3 months, they've caught all of the, or 2 months, they've caught all the information, 3 months, they've caught all the information of the members, what prescriptions they've used. On 8/1, they will go in and override the system. So what they're going to do is go in and put an override in their system and allow those employees to continue taking those medications without having to get a prior authorization for the next 12 months. Anyone that is not taking a specialty medication currently and is given a specialty medication after 8/1, right, then they will know prior to getting that prescription that they must contact NFPRX and do a prior authorization. So our hope is that we're going to do enough education up front that they will be well aware to know that if this medication, if a specialty medication is being written, then they will need to get prior authorization and they will have to use a CVS Caremark provider.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
One of the things, Councilmember Hall, that you had said is that you want to look out for the employees, and rest assured the Insurance Committee does look out for the employees when we do this. One of the things that Councilmember Johnson had requested several years ago was to know how the committee voted in each of these, and these all were unanimous contract passes by the Insurance Committee.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Kelly.
Yeah, I was looking, and speaking of that, I was looking in the background information. It didn't provide that information.
It did not? I thought I put it right at the end.
It's right at the bottom,
Yep,
Mr.
way
Johnson.
at the
Bottom?
end.
Okay.
Very bottom, right above recommended action.
Okay. I do appreciate that, though, because, I really want to talk, we can sit here and answer these questions, and you can see the passion from the council. I mean, when you're talking health insurance, that is really critical anymore. But I really do want to thank our employee insurance committee. I mean, you look at how we were upside down as a city, and it really started with recommendations from this committee of how we could turn things around. And so I know, it's impacting them directly. So that's why I appreciated their vote. I appreciate them looking into it. I know they're not taking this lightly, as all the council are not taking any changes lightly. We want to look for ways of saving money, because right now what we see happening in healthcare is just not right. And what I mean by that is where we've seen, one medication skyrocket overnight because it's taken over by another company. We want what's best for employees. So I really do. I want to thank each and every one of our employees that serve on that employee insurance committee and make those decisions when they know those decisions impact all the employees in the city of Muskogee. So thank you for that background. And I apologize that I did not see that at the bottom. I just saw in the background that it says the committee met and talked
okay.
it
It's
and
a little
discussed
long.
it, but it didn't go any further than that. Thank you very much.
Move for approval.
I've got
Motion
a
and a
question
second. Is there other
myself.
questions?
I've got a question. This is for Ms. Plunkett or Mr. Miller. Just refresh my memory. We had a little over $3 million in the fund a few years ago, and I thought that was just dandy. And I was explained to that we didn't want to get that fund too high for a particular reason. And what was that reason?
That's a good question for Gene, who has left. But what I would say is we knew that we would be, what we've done over the last 2 years is that it would lower the balance by having a premium holiday over the last couple of years.
And we did that on purpose.
And we did that on purpose.
Because the fund, for some reason, was thought of as too high.
And if we can remember back to when Brady was here and explaining that to us, he said that we didn't want to be in the insurance business of making money, and we didn't want to seem that way, and we didn't want to have that much of a balance because
I think that's the answer. That one last question.
Yes, sir.
What's the sweet spot?
Where we are right now, I hope to not go any lower than we are right now.
But what's the sweet spot? Do we want to be at 2 million, 2.5?
Months of claims, which is about 1.3. I think, like right now, like I said, we're at 1.7 right now, and we just had another big, huge week of claims. It was $165,000 this week. So it's getting down, and we certainly don't want to go any lower than what we're at.
Going to be careful and end our holiday.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Effective April 30th.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Answered all of our questions, and it was very, very informative.
Yeah. And
Kelly, answer one question for me. How long ago was it we were upside down and we were less than $1 million in there? I
5
want to
years
say,
ago.
was it 5? I was thinking 4.
5.
That's a pretty quick turnaround to have 2 holidays in there
After the
just
fact.
now, but yes,
And
I think it's remarkable.
I think prior to that, we had 1 year of premium reduction. I can't recall which year that was. I think the first year after NFP came on board, we reduced the premiums for both the city and the employees, and I think it was at 10% if memory serves.
If someone were to tell you this couldn't be done, it can be done. Great job.
Yeah, and you know the reservations that each and every one of us have about that.
We asked the same questions.
We asked the same
5 years
questions
ago,
then,
yeah.
and really, we based that off of the recommendation of, the employee insurance committee. So, outstanding job.
Super. Roll call.
Can I just
Yes.
remind you that we need to change the language in the zero card contract
Okay,
and
do we need to
add
change
the
the motion then? to
DME
The
contract?
approve as presented, including the supplements.
have- Okay.
Thank you.
You want me to do it?
Amend the motion in
yeah.
the
So-
second as well? We're good
Yes.
to go?
What we'll need is a motion to, I think the motion was just to approve. So what we'd ask is the movant and the person who's made the second to approve both resolutions as presented, supplementing the modification to the Zero Card Administrative Services Agreement and the contract addition to the City of Muskogee opt-out agreement for healthcare services as supplemented and passed out in front of you. Yes.
Now, do we have a motion to that and a second to that?
Yes.
Super. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, the motion carries, and we didn't have anyone sign up to speak
Mayor.
to us tonight.
May I make a motion to suspend the rules?
What's that?
May I make a motion to suspend the rules?
Suspend the rules for
Suspend the
what?
rules so you can tell them about the mayor's citywide cleanup this week, starting this week. I think you do a very good job.
Well, I'm just going to not say we have to expend the rules.
That's
Let's
just an announcement.
I'll just give you
Oh.
that in terms of announcement. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Looks like we have over 1,000 people who will be helping clean up around the community in a effort to kind of clean things up before the Azalea Festival starts in early April, and we're pretty excited about that happening. So you can sign up to work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, anytime you want, any location you want, to help with the cleanup. It could be a school, it could be a church organization, it could be a Kendall Place group that gets together of an addition or a section of town, but we need everybody involved in helping clean up this city. Everything looks to be right on schedule, and we're still working on the weather for one day because it's about 30% chance of rain, but it looks like it's going to be pretty nice weather for the cleanup too. So please come out and join us. We'd love to have you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.